For decades, owning a sailboat over 30 feet was seen as the ultimate symbol of freedom, a quiet escape, a reward after a lifetime of work. Thousands of Americans, especially retirees, made the same promise to themselves. One day I'll sail off into the sunset. But in 2025, something strange is happening across marinas from Maine to San Diego. Boatyards are filling with vessels suddenly dumped on the market. Brokers are working overtime. And retirees, once proud of their ocean-going dreams, are now whispering the same confession. I can't afford to keep it anymore. This is not a coincidence. It is not a small trend. It is not a passing crisis. What's unfolding right now is a quiet financial disaster that almost no sailor saw coming because the industry never warned them. A wave of hidden, unavoidable, non-negotiable $10,000 to $20,000 expenses is hammering every sailboat over 30 feet in the United States, catching owners completely off guard, destabilizing budgets, and triggering a mass sell-off that looks alarmingly like panic. And what makes this story so disturbing is that most of the owners feeling the shock are the people who can afford it the least. Retirees with fixed incomes, declining savings, and no margin for unexpected maritime ambushes. What you're about to read is not speculation. It is not fear for the sake of fear. It is a systemic issue affecting nearly every sailboat large enough to live aboard or travel offshore. Regardless of brand, age, condition, or location. The signs were visible for years, scattered in survey reports, insurance quotes, boatyard estimates, and state compliance memos. But only now are the pieces coming together, and the picture is frightening. The truth is simple. The moment a boat hits 30 feet, the price of ownership doesn't just grow, it explodes. Complex systems require specialized labor. Marine regulations become stricter. Insurance demands become more aggressive, haul-out requirements increase, rigging lifespans compress, and hidden costs multiply fast enough to crush even the most prepared sailors. Today, those quietly compounding costs are finally reaching their breaking point, and thousands of boat owners are learning that the dream they fought so hard to afford has transformed into a financial trap they can't escape unless they sell immediately, before the next bill arrives. But to understand the panic sweeping across American marinas, we must break down the real reason this crisis has grown so violently. The total price to keep a 30-40 FT sailboat legally compliant, insured, seaworthy, and safe is no longer a manageable annual cost. It has become a catastrophic multi-system avalanche that can strike without warning and bankrupt a retiree in a single season. Let's expose each component, not as guesswork, but as the very pressures forcing boat owners to dump their vessels right now. The first financial shock comes from the one thing no sailor can avoid, the annual haul-out. Haul-outs were once simple, predictable, and relatively cheap. $600 here, $1,000 there. But as boatyards across the country struggle with rising insurance premiums, labor shortages, equipment maintenance, and state environmental regulations, those prices have skyrocketed. In many areas, the basic haul-out, pressure wash, and block-up fee for a 30-40 FT sailboat now starts at $2,000 to $3,200. But that's before the inspection reveals anything wrong, and something is almost always wrong. Even a routine bottom job, materials included, can run $2,500 to $6,500, depending on paint type, environmental rules, and labor availability. Add in the mandatory replacement of through-hull hardware every decade, and the bill rises another $1,500 to $5,000, depending on material. This alone is enough to frighten new owners, but for retirees with fixed incomes, the shock is worse. These numbers hit them suddenly, often after years of stable costs. Haul-out inflation is real, it's aggressive, and it's accelerating. But haul-outs are just the beginning. Insurance companies have quietly become one of the biggest drivers of this panic. After a series of storm seasons that devastated marinas, destroyed vessels, and led to record-breaking claim payouts, insurers have lost patience. They are aggressively reducing risk exposure, tightening requirements, raising premiums, and demanding expensive upgrades from boat owners before issuing or renewing a policy. For a sailboat over 30 FT, especially one older than 20 years, meaning most cruising sailboats in America, annual insurance premiums have jumped 40% to 120% in the last few years. But the premium itself is not what's causing retirees to run for the exit. It's the mandatory upgrades insurance companies now require. Full rigging replacement every 10 years. That's $8,000 to $18,000, depending on boat size and rig complexity. Engine mounts showing age, they want them replaced. That's what $200 to $3,000. Diesel tanks older than 25 years. Insurance no longer trusts them. They want them inspected, replaced, or relined. $5,000 to $12,000, depending on access. Electrical systems that don't meet ABYC standards? That's another multi-thousand-dollar problem waiting to be forced onto owners. Sailors aren't being given a choice. They are being told, upgrade this or lose coverage. And without insurance, most marinas and haul-out yards won't let them in, trapping them in a no-win scenario. This leads directly into the next unexpected expense: marina fees. Across the country, transient slips, permanent slips, and mooring fields have all seen dramatic price increases. But the biggest shock comes when marinas add mandatory requirements: proof of rigging age, liability insurance, environmental compliance, pump-out records, and annual safety documentation. The retiree who thought their $400 monthly slip fee was stable is suddenly hit with a notice. To continue your contract, please provide updated rigging documentation, insurance compliance, and your new environmental fee payment. Environmental fees alone can add $300 to $1,000 per year, depending on state. Florida, California, and the Pacific Northwest have become especially aggressive. Slip fees themselves are rising without warning. A 35-foot sailboat in a reasonably popular marina can now cost $6,000 to $12,000 annually before any of the required compliance fees. Fuel costs, surprisingly, aren't even the problem. Sailboats don't burn much fuel, but diesel systems, tanks, fuel lines, filters, and engine parts have become the Achilles heel of older boats. Ethanol contamination issues, algae growth, sludge buildup, rust inside steel tanks, and leaks around fittings are becoming common. Retirees often discover this during a routine service when the mechanic says, "I can't clean this, you need a new tank." Replacing a fuel tank in a typical 30-40 FT sailboat means cutting out cabinetry, flooring, or fiberglass. The job can take 40 to 120 labor hours. At today's marine labor rates, $115 to $185 per hour, this becomes a $7,000 to $15,000 nightmare. And yes, this is happening all over the country. The rigging crisis is even worse. Stainless steel does not last forever. Insurance considers rigging expired at 10 years. Some marinas follow the same rule. Owners who try to delay replacements are often refused haul-outs or denied insurance renewals. A full standing rigging replacement on a 35-foot sloop used to cost $4,000 to $6,000. Today, with inflation, material shortages, and complex labor demands, the same job ranges from $9,000 to $18,000. And if the turnbuckles show corrosion, add $800. If the chain plates show crevice corrosion, add $200 to $4,000 depending on complexity. If the mast needs electrical rewiring, add $2,000 to $6,000. This is what pushes retirees into full-blown panic. Even when their boat looks fine, hidden metal fatigue is building inside the rigging. A surveyor can spot it. An insurer can demand repairs, and the owner cannot ignore it. The deck and hull issues create a different kind of financial trap. Even a well-maintained sailboat over 30 feet can fall victim to deck core moisture, blistering, delamination, and chain plate intrusion. These are technically fixable, but at a cost that many retirees cannot handle. Re-corings on side decks, $6,000 to $20,000. Blister repairs, $5,000 to $15,000. Chain plate intrusion repairs, $2,000 to $6,000. Rudder rebuilds, $5,000 to $12,000. Even owners who perform regular maintenance are discovering that modern materials and labor costs push these repairs out of reach. Now imagine being a retiree who saved for decades to live aboard, only to be blindsided by bills like this. The psychological effect is devastating. They don't want to abandon the dream. They don't want to admit defeat. They don't want to be the person who posts their boat for sale under forced to sell due to unexpected expenses. But that is exactly what's happening. Scroll through listings in 2025 and the pattern is unmistakable. Recent health issues. Cannot keep up with maintenance. Unexpected marina changes. Insurance requirements exceeded our budget. These are coded phrases hiding one truth. The boat became too expensive to keep. Even worse, many retirees bought during the pandemic boom when prices were high and inventory was low. They overpaid. Now they're underwater financially and the market is cooling. Brokers report that boats over 30 FT are now flooding the market not because owners want to upgrade, but because they're trying to escape costs before the next catastrophic bill arrives. Some retiree owners are making the same confession with horrifying honesty. If I keep this boat one more year, I will drain my retirement savings. They're not exaggerating. And here is the darkest part of this story. Every sailor watching these market shifts knows, or at least senses, that they might be next. Anyone with a 30-40 FT boat is now questioning when the next hidden $10,000 bill will appear. Not if, when. The fear is real, the uncertainty is real, and the industry has done almost nothing to warn owners. This exposes the core issue. Boat ownership costs have inflated faster than retirement income, faster than wage growth, faster than the value of most boats themselves. The numbers don't lie. A sailboat over 30 feet now requires annual or biennial haul-outs, ongoing rigging inspections, periodic rigging replacements, insurance-mandated upgrades, marina compliance improvements, system replacements due to aging materials, environmental compliance upgrades, fuel tank and diesel system, troubleshooting, sail replacements, electronic upgrades, state registration increases, emergency repair reserves, and the labor costs for every hour of work that an owner cannot physically perform. When you combine these costs, the annual outlay for a 30-40 FT sailboat in the US rarely falls below $10,000 anymore. In many cases, it approaches $20,000, even when the boat is in good condition. And for yachts over 40 feet, the numbers climb even higher. This is the storm retirees never saw coming. What is unfolding is not just a personal crisis for individual sailors. It is a structural shift in American boating culture. The generation that built the cruising lifestyle, the baby boomers, is being pushed out by economics. Younger owners cannot afford the entry costs. Middle-income families are priced out. And the only people who can survive the new normal are individuals with disposable income high enough to absorb unexpected five-figure hits. That means the typical dream of retiring on a sailboat is becoming unrealistic for the vast majority of Americans. The panic selling is not just a reaction to individual bills. It is a warning sign that the entire system is breaking. The costs of keeping a sailboat over 30 feet seaworthy have finally crossed a psychological threshold. They no longer feel like maintenance. They feel like relentless financial ambushes. Ambushes that show up in the mail, in the survey report, in the insurance renewal, or in the marina policy. Owners are asking the same terrifying questions. What if my tank fails next year? What if my rigging gets flagged during the next inspection? What if insurance refuses to renew unless I spend $12,000? What if my marina raises fees again? What if a storm hits and my deductible explodes? These aren't hypotheticals. They are recurring events across the country. So what happens now? If costs continue rising, more retirees will sell. Listings will rise, prices will fall, brokers will be overwhelmed, marinas will lose long-term tenants, and the dream of affordable cruising will shrink even further. But most importantly, sailors must understand one critical truth. The hidden $10,000 to $20,000 expenses targeting boats over 30 feet are not going away. They are structural, systemic, and built directly into the mechanical, electrical, environmental, and regulatory realities of modern boating. Every marina feels this. Every boatyard feels this. Every insurer feels this. And every retiree with a 30-footer is feeling the pressure right now, or will feel it soon. The people selling in panic are not overreacting. They're responding to a reality the industry refuses to discuss openly. Sailboats are becoming too expensive to maintain for the average American. And unless you're prepared to weather a financial storm that hits without warning, the vessel you love can quickly become the anchor that sinks your retirement. This new era of hidden fees is not an exception. It is the future, and ignoring it will not make it disappear. Sailors must face the truth. The age of affordable cruising is ending. And the people selling right now, those retirees fleeing in panic, may simply be the first ones brave enough to admit it.